Welcome back to the BookCast. Today we are unpacking every layer of the incredible novel, The Brothers Karamazov.
It's going to be quite a ride. This book is, well, it's immense.
It really is. Get ready for a deep dive into its characters, themes, and the hidden meanings behind the story. We're going to try and make sense of this sprawling, amazing work.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but a rewarding one. Dostoyevsky doesn't pull any punches. He makes you wrestle with faith, morality, family, everything, really.
He certainly does. So our mission today is to explore those unforgettable characters, dig into the intricate plots, and maybe uncover some of those hidden meanings.
It's a huge landscape, definitely. But we'll guide you through, keep it clear, engaging, hopefully thought-provoking.
All right, let's dive in. To understand this whole thing, you really have to start with the family, the Karamazovs. And at the center, or maybe the chaotic void at the center, is the father, Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov.
Oh, Fyodor, yeah. He's not just flawed, is he? Dostoyevsky paints him as almost deliberately grotesque.
Yeah.
He's the spark that lights all the fires in this novel.
He really is. Yeah. Described as reckless, dissolute, a cunning buffoon. He actually seems to enjoy scandal, like when his first wife dies.
He runs out into the street shouting for joy. Drunk, apparently.
Yeah.
It just shows you right away this is not a man bound by normal decency or, frankly, empathy.
No kidding. And his marriages. They tell you a lot. The first one, to Adelaida Ivanovna, Mitya's mother. Sounds like a real mess.
Totally. Passion, maybe, but also disdain. And then she dies suddenly in Petersburg. Maybe typhus? Maybe? Starvation. That little detail, that ambiguity, it hangs there.
Yeah, it does. Then the second wife, Ivan and Alyosha's mother. Just a 16-year-old orphan girl.
And he basically proposes an elopement, whisks her away, and then just keeps her terrified. The text says, in terror from her childhood, it's systematic cruelty. This house is not a home. It's a breeding ground for misery.
Definitely. And even the servant, Grigory, gives us a clue. He's this gloomy, stubborn guy.
Right. And he apparently hated the first wife, Adelaida, but he actually championed the second one, the young orphan. Tried to protect her, broke up Fyodor's parties, drove away the disorderly women.
So even the difficult servant could see how awful Fyodor was being to her. It just underlines the father's character, doesn't it? Seen through the eyes of someone right there.
Exactly. It's a subtle but really powerful way Dostoyevsky shows us just how low Fyodor operates.
Okay, so with a father like that, neglecting everyone, actively causing pain, it's no wonder the sons are, well, damaged goods in their own ways. The neglect basically plants the seeds for everything that happens later. Let's look at Dmitri, or Mitya, the eldest. He seems like pure Karamazov-id, almost.
Yeah, Mitya. His story starts with just being tossed aside, abandoned. Grigory looks after him for nearly a year, which says a lot about Fyodor.
Right. Then he gets passed off to this relative, Musov, who doesn't seem too thrilled about it either.
Not at all. And so Mitya's later life is just chaos. Reckless drinking, dissipation, always chasing something, and crucially, always fighting with his father about money.
The inheritance, right, from his mother.
Exactly. He's convinced Fyodor cheated him out of it. He desperately believes he's owed this money, only to find out again and again that he has nothing. Maybe he's even in debt to Fyodor because of these shady deals his father cooked up.
And that desperation, that feeling of being cheated, it just fuels his temper, his volatility.
Completely. It pushes him towards increasingly desperate actions throughout the story. It's a huge part of his motivation.
Okay, then there's Ivan, the intellectual. It's such a contrast to Mitya. He's got this quiet intensity.
He really does. Very educated, writes these brilliant reviews, seems intellectually superior to everyone around him.
And financially independent, too. Doesn't need his father's money.
Right. He's got enough to travel abroad. He's proud. He seems to almost disdain his father. But interestingly, Fyodor can't do without him. Clings to him, wants to argue with him, maybe just wants the stimulation.
But underneath that cool intellectual surface, you sense something brewing, right? Some kind of internal conflict.
Oh, definitely. Dostoyevsky hints at it. His pride seems like a shield. He's wrestling with these huge existential questions that become absolutely central later on. You feel this weight of unspoken stuff inside him. Doubts, maybe.
And the third brother, Alexei, or Alyosha, the youngest, the aspiring monk. He feels like the odd one out in this family.
He really does. He ends up in a monastery, a novice under Father Zosma, but what's fascinating is how he's described more of a realist than anyone.
Which is weird for a monk, you'd think.
Right. But it suggests he's grounded. He has this deep, holy, and steadfast faith, but also this incredible empathy. He feels what others feel.
So he's positioned as this kind of bridge between his chaotic brothers and the spiritual world.
Exactly. Dostoyevsky sets him up as this moral anchor, but one who's constantly tested by the messy reality of his family. He's the innocent trying to navigate this den of vipers, almost. Trying to understand, not just judge.
It really feels like each son is a different piece of the same shattered Karamazov soul. Mia's the senses, Ivan's the intellect, Alyosha's the spirit.
Perfectly put. And Mitya himself says it later, doesn't he? Calls Alyosha a sensualist from your father, a crazy saint from your mother. That contradiction is right there in the family DNA.
That push and pull between base desires and maybe higher aspirations, it drives everything.
It really does. Okay, so that's the family dynamic, more or less. Now, the first big event where they all collide, surprisingly, happens at the monastery.
Right. In Elder Zosima's cell, of all places, the contrast is just stark. This holy place and this incredibly dysfunctional family about to clash. What was supposed to be the reason for this meeting?
Well, the official reason, the stated purpose, was to sort out Dmitri's unseemly quarrel with his father over the inheritance money.
Seems simple enough on the surface.
But it immediately spirals out of control. It becomes this platform for all the simmering resentment, all the conflicts. And for Dostoyevsky, it's a chance to really start digging into those big philosophical and religious questions.
And the guest list adds to the tension too, right? Yusov is there.
Exactly. Fyodor Alexandrovich Misov, Mitya's old guardian, he's this supercilious intellectual, very westernized, looks down his nose not just at Fyodor, who he despises, but also at the monks, at the whole idea of the monastery. So you have this immediate clash of worldviews right there in the cell.
And Fyodor Pavlovich naturally uses this solemn setting for more buffoonery.
Of course. He can't help himself, or rather, he chooses not to. He deliberately plays the fool, tells this completely made-up story about Diderot, the French philosopher, getting baptized just to provoke the monks to add piquancy.
He even admits it, doesn't he? Tells Misov, I play the fool to make myself agreeable.
Right. He knows exactly what he's doing. It's calculated disruption. Then he starts openly questioning faith, asking Zosima about saints being martyred, asking what must I do to gain eternal life, but probably joking, mocking the whole thing. It's an assault on the sacred space.
But Zosima handles it with such calm wisdom. He doesn't really rise to the bait.
No, he meets Fyodor's provocations with this incredible serenity and insight. He just tells Fyodor, you have known for a long time what you must do.
Which is such a quiet but deep cut, isn't it? Pointing out Fyodor's deliberate avoidance of morality.
Yeah, and he gives that advice to Madame Holikov too, the lady of little faith.
Right, that famous line, love in action is a harsh and dreadful thing compared with love in dreams, highlighting the difference between feeling compassionate and actually doing something difficult for someone else.
And Alyosha's just caught in the middle of all this, feeling the pressure.
Immensely. He reveres Zosima, feels he has to protect his glory, but he's terrified of Musov's irony and Ivan's intellectual disdain. He trembled for him, the text says. His loyalty to Zosima versus his love for his family, it's tearing him apart. You really feel his burden.
Then the conversation takes a sharp turn into politics and religion, the church and state debate, driven by Ivan.
Yeah, this is where we really see Ivan's philosophy starting to form. He argues that the church should basically absorb the state, transform it into the church.
So like a theocracy, essentially, yeah. He thinks this wouldn't degrade the state, but guide it to its true and rightful path, where moral law, dictated by the church, governs everything.
And Father Paisi, the learned monk, agrees.
Fervently, he insists the church's judgment is the only one that contains the truth. And Zosima adds that crucial point. Without the church, there's no real restraint on crime, no real chastisement afterwards, just mechanical punishment that only embitters the heart.
He's saying real change comes from within, from moral understanding, not just prison.
Exactly. It's about internal transformation, spiritual guidance. This whole debate really sets up the novel's exploration of conscience, law, and morality.
And just as things are getting really deep and philosophical, Dmitri crashes the party. Literally.
Boom. Yes. He bursts in furious, calling the whole thing an unseemly farce, accusing his father of just wanting a scandal. His rage is just volcanic. It shatters the intellectual discussion.
A reminder that underneath all the talk, there are these raw, dangerous human passions at play.
Precisely. The clash of the sacred and the profane right there in the elder's cell.
And then, as the meeting breaks up in chaos, Zosima gives Alyosha that final, crucial piece of advice. His prophecy, almost.
It's a profound moment. Zosima knows he's dying. My days, but my hours are numbered. And he tells Alyosha, go and make haste. Be near your brothers, and not near one only, but near both.
That's a huge directive. sending him out of the monastery back into the thick of the family mess?
It is. It's a call to action. He has to engage with the world, with the sin and suffering he perhaps wanted to escape. And Zosima telling him not to weep, but to rejoice at his death. That shows this deeper understanding of life and death as a transition. It pushes Alyosha towards life, towards connection, towards being that mediator of grace.
Okay, so the family tensions are out in the open. Now let's really zoom in on that volatile mix. Love, money, humiliation. Especially with Dmitri. It's like a chemical reaction waiting to happen.
It really is. Dostoyevsky is just masterful here, showing how tangled up these things get. Love, honor, cash, pride, they push people right to the edge. And at the center is this incredibly destructive love triangle involving Dmitri.
Let's unpack that. First, his engagement to Katerina Ivanovna. It doesn't sound like a typical romance.
No, not at all. Dmitri says they were formally and solemnly betrothed, with icons, all in fine style. But then he tells Alyosha, brutally honest, that she loves her own virtue, not me.
Ouch. And she comes across as very proud, imperious.
Extremely. Self-confident, demanding, but also obsessed with honor, with her public image. She wants to understand Dmitri, even asks Alyosha about him, which hints maybe at something deeper, some vulnerability, but her pride is always paramount. Her love feels like a performance.
And adding another layer of tension, Ivan is secretly in love with her.
Yes. Even fell in love with her. He's in love with her still. It's this silent, burning thing. And Katerina clearly respects Ivan, maybe prefers his composed intellect to Dmitri's chaos.
So it creates this unspoken rivalry between the brothers. Agonizing.
Totally. It just simmers under the surface, poisoning everything, adding to the resentment.
And the third point of this triangle, Rushenka. The object of obsession for both Dmitri and his father, Fyodor. She's painted as quite the femme fatale, but maybe more complicated.
Oh, definitely more complicated. Initially, yeah, others call her a rogue, a deceitful, shameless hussy. She's the one igniting this destructive passion in both father and son. Dmitri talks about her physical allure, this raw, consuming desire.
We see her manipulative side at the monastery meeting, playing them off each other.
We do. But then Dostoyevsky peels back the layers. We learn she has this wounded past, deceived and ruined by a betrothed when she was young. It suggests there's real pain beneath the provocative surface. She's not just a temptress. She's a woman searching for something, maybe redemption.
Okay, so beyond the love triangle, Dmitri's got this crushing financial problem, the missing 3,000 rubles.
Yes, that 3,000. It's money Katerina entrusted to him for her sister, and he admits, with terrible shame, he squandered it with that creature Grushenka in one night.
So it's not just debt, it's a debt of honor to Katerina.
Exactly. That's what makes it so unbearable for him. It's a point of disgrace. He feels he has to repay it, restore his honor, and this drives him to absolute desperation. He feels trapped.
And his desperation leads to violence. That awful incident where he humiliates Captain Snegiryov.
Yeah, pulling the old man's beard, dragging him out of a tavern in a drunken rage. It's appalling. But Dostoyevsky shows us the ripple effect. It's not just about the captain. It's about his little son, Ilusha.
Being taunted at school, called wisp of tow because of his father's humiliation.
It's heartbreaking. It ties the Karamazov's private chaos to this wider suffering. It shows how one impulsive, violent act can just devastate an innocent life. It's a perfect example of the kind of innocent suffering that Ivan struggles with so much later. And it highlights the cruelty kids can show, merciless when together, even if angels individually.
Meanwhile, in the background, we have Smerdyakov, the servant. She's quietly developing this really sinister philosophy.
Smerdyakov is deeply unsettling, unsociable and taciturn, always watching. He's deeply conceited, despises everyone, probably stemming from his shame about being Fyodor's illegitimate son.
And Fyodor calls him Balaam's ass, because he makes these clever, twisted arguments.
Exactly. He practices casuistry using moral reasoning to justify questionable actions. He argues, for instance, that denying God under duress isn't a sin if you do it rationally and repent later.
Like finding loopholes in morality.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's this kind of intellectual justification for moral relativism, and it's a philosophy that dangerously appeals to Ivan's own growing doubts and skepticism. Smerdyakov is like a walking embodiment of a moral slippery slope.
And poor Alyosha is caught in the middle of all these swirling currents. Zosima told him to be near his brothers, but it's tearing him apart.
It's an immense burden. He's seeing the Karamazov sensualist nature, up close to the lust, the greed, the anger. It challenges his faith, his ideals. He even admits it. I, too, am a Karamazov. Perhaps I don't even believe in God.
Wow, that's a huge admission.
It shows the pressure he's under. trying to reconcile his faith with the chaos and sin he sees in his family, and maybe even wrestling with it in himself. He's trying to be the mediator, the anchor, but it takes a massive toll.
Which brings us squarely to Ivan. His intellectual struggles, his rebellion. It's really the philosophical core of the novel, isn't it? Especially the Grand Inquisitor.
Absolutely. Ivan's arguments aren't just abstract debates. They come from this deep, visceral place. He cannot accept the suffering in the world, especially the suffering of innocent children. That's the foundation of his rebellion against God, against creation itself.
He says no future heaven can justify the tears of one tortured child.
Exactly. The innocent must not suffer for another's sins. He declares it with such force. No future harmony, no crown of knowledge can possibly make up for the unexpiated tears of even one child. He says flat out, it's not worth it.
The price is too high.
For Ivan, yes. It fundamentally invalidates any divine plan if it's built on that kind of innocent agony. It's a radical challenge to theology, placing human compassion and the reality of pain above abstract justifications.
And this leads him to create his poem, The Legend of the Grand Inquisitor. This story within the story.
Yeah, it's incredible. He imagines Christ returning to Earth during the Spanish Inquisition. The people recognize him, adore him, and then this 90-year-old Grand Inquisitor has him arrested.
And the Inquisitor basically tells Christ he messed up by giving humanity freedom.
Precisely. He chastises Christ, calls humans impotent rebels who can't handle freedom. He says their greatest anxiety is finding someone to hand that freedom over to.
Someone to tell them what to do, give them security instead of freedom.
Exactly. The Inquisitor argues that the three powers Christ rejected: miracle, mystery, and authority are the only things that can make humans happy by controlling their conscience. He says people will gladly trade freedom for earthly bread, for security.
And the Church, or the Inquisitor's version of it, will provide that security, even if it's based on a lie.
Yes. The Inquisitor says, we will keep the secret that there's no heaven, but we'll give them the illusion of it, give them happiness on earth by taking away their agonizing freedom. He thinks Christ asked too much of humanity, and true compassion means controlling them for their own good. It's a chilling argument for totalitarianism disguised as benevolence.
Yeah. And this whole line of thinking leads Ivan to that terrifying conclusion. Everything is lawful.
It's the logical endpoint of his rebellion. If there's no God, no immortality, then there are no absolute moral rules. Ivan defines the Karamazov strength as the strength of the Karamazov baseness, a path of just giving in to desire's corruption. If nothing ultimately matters, then any action can be justified.
It's not just an idea, it has real consequences.
Devastating consequences. Dostoyevsky shows how this thought corrodes everything. It removes all moral anchors. And we see it play out in Ivan's own mind, and tragically, through Smerdyakov.
Right. Smerdyakov picks up on this philosophy, doesn't he?
Right.
And uses it.
He does. It's sinister. Smerdyakov senses Ivan's nihilism, senses his unspoken wish for Fyodor to be gone, and he plays on it. He subtly encourages Ivan to leave town.
He outlines the whole situation, Fyodor waiting for Grushenka, his fear of Dmitri.
Meticulously. He basically lays out how vulnerable Fyodor will be. He even asks Ivan, if I go away, you see what will happen here. It's a veiled way of asking for permission, almost.
And Ivan leaves. He goes to Chermashnya.
He does, and he knows, on some level, that by leaving, he's giving his tacit approval. He's implicitly sanctioning whatever might happen. It's a profound moral compromise. He even recalls later feeling this peculiar repulsion, listening to his father moving around downstairs just before he left. His intellectual ideas have led him to become complicit in potential violence.
The fuse is lit. The tensions are unbearable. Dmitri's enraged. Ivan's given this dark, philosophical green light. Smerdyakov is lurking. Now comes the night of the crime.
This is it, the boiling point, where all that passion, desperation, and philosophy collide. And it all starts, really, with Dmitri's frantic hunt for that money.
That 3,000 rubles. He needs it to pay back Katerina, to run away with Grushenka. It's his last chance at honor and escape.
He's absolutely consumed by it. First, he tries Kuzma Samsonov, this nasty old merchant.
Who just sends him on a wild goose chase.
Maliciously, yes. Sends him off to see some guy named Leah Gavi about a worthless bit of forest land, knowing it's completely futile, just playing with him.
Cruel. Then he tries Madame Holikov.
Even more absurd. She goes off on this bizarre tangent about investing in gold mines, while Dmitri is desperate for actual cash now. He just loses it, roars, hits the table. You feel his frustration, his humiliation mounting.
He's being pushed further and further to the edge, and then he heads to his father's house.
Like a man possessed. He knows about the signals Fyodor uses for Grushenka, suspects she might be there. That jealousy is eating him alive.
He sees his father at the window.
Yeah, waiting for Grushenka, making those signals. And Dmitri feels this overwhelming physical repulsion for him. His double chin, his nose, his eyes, his shameless grin, it becomes unendurable.
And then Grigori confronts him.
Right. The loyal servant tries to stop him, shouts, "Parricide!" grabs his leg, and Dmitri, in this frenzy, terrified Grigori will be a witness, just reacts. He hits him with that brass pestle he grabbed earlier.
Does he think he killed him?
He does. He flees, believing he's killed Grigori. It's impulsive, a moment of panic, not a calculated attack.
So, after potentially killing Grigori and fleeing his father's house, Dmitri ends up partying at Makro.
It's bizarre, isn't it? But it speaks to his chaotic state. He somehow believes he has enough money. Now he has about 800 rubles left from Katerina's money. On his frenzy, he thinks it's 1,500. And he just throws himself into this wild orgy.
Trying to have one last blast before the end.
Seems like it. Champagne, gypsy singers, throwing money at peasants. He's trying to buy one last moment of joy, of freedom. He even calls it a ray of light and hope in his darkness. But you feel the desperation underneath. It's his last night, he thinks.
And Grushenka's there. She has her own trauma going on. Her old flame shows up.
Yeah, the Polish officer, her first seducer. He arrives, and it looks like she might actually leave Mitya for him. More torment for Dmitri.
But she rejects the Pole in the end.
She does. It's a huge turning point for her. It shows she's maybe chosen a different path, chosen Dmitri, or at least rejected that part of her past. And it's around this time she has that incredibly tender moment with Alyosha.
The little onion scene.
Yes. She confesses her manipulative side, admits she wanted to corrupt Alyosha, but his simple kindness breaks through. He tells her, "I only gave you an onion, nothing but a tiny little onion, that was all." Referencing that folk tale about a small act of charity saving a soul, it reveals her potential for real love, for repentance.
But the party, the fleeting hope, it can't last. The police arrive.
Inevitably, the revelry stops dead. They see his bloody hands. The captain, the prosecutor, they accuse him of murdering his father.
And Madame Holocaust denies giving him money, making it look like robbery was the motive.
Exactly. The night ends not with escape, but with arrest. The reality crashes down hard.
So Dmitri's arrested. The investigation begins. And this is where it gets really messy, right? Facts, interpretations, biases, all colliding.
Totally. It shows how hard it is to get to the objective truth when human nature is involved. Dmitri's interrogation is a perfect example. He's Dmitri.
Passionate, contradictory. He denies the murder, denies being a thief.
Vehemently. Dmitri Karamazov is a scoundrel, but not a thief. That sense of honor again. But in next breath, he admits hating his father, admits threatening to kill him before witnesses. He's incriminating himself even as he denies the main charge.
And he confesses to hitting Grigori, but then finds out Grigori is alive.
Yes. And he's overjoyed, thanks God, for the miracle. Which, again, complicates the picture. Is this the reaction of a cold-blooded killer? Probably not.
Then there's the money, the 800 rubles found on him.
Right. The prosecution assumes it's part of the stolen 3,000. Dmitri tells this convoluted story about keeping half of Katerina's money sewn into a pouch on his breast for her, spending the other half. He calls keeping that money the most shameful act of my whole life.
Focusing on his personal shame, not the implication of theft.
Exactly. And the bloody cuff. He says he got it tending to Grigori, turned it inside out washing his hands. Plausible? Maybe. But the prosecution sees it all as lies and evasion.
But the biggest piece of physical evidence seems to be Grigori's testimony about the open door.
That's the killer detail, seemingly. Grigori is absolutely adamant he saw the garden gate open, then later saw Fyodor's door standing wide open, and he's sure Dmitri ran at that door.
Which directly contradicts Dmitri's story that the door was shut.
Directly. It makes Dmitri look like a liar and strongly suggests he was inside the house, committed the murder, and fled through that open door, and the missing money. It all seems to fit the prosecution's narrative of robbery-murder.
While all this is happening to Dmitri, Ivan is spiraling downwards himself. That brain fever.
Yeah, his guilt, his complicity, it's manifesting physically and mentally. He's having these terrifying hallucinations of the devil.
Who basically acts like his cynical alter ego.
Exactly. Mocking Ivan's ideas, calling him a phantom, saying, "You are myself, only with a different face." The devil throws Ivan's own philosophy back at him. Everything is lawful. It's his conscience torturing him, the psychological price of his intellectual rebellion.
And then comes the bombshell. Smerdykov's confession. Just before he kills himself.
This should change everything, shouldn't it? Alyosha tells Ivan the shocking news. Smerdyakov hanged himself, but before that, Smerdyakov confessed everything to Ivan in these chilling conversations.
He admits he killed Fyodor.
He does, lays out the whole plan, how he expected Dmitri to kill Fyodor, how he'd prepared him for it, how he waited for Dmitri to climb the fence, used the signals to lure Fyodor out, killed him with the pestle, and staged the scene to frame Dmitri perfectly. Cold, calculated, horrifying.
And he implicates Ivan directly, says Ivan's philosophy made it possible.
Absolutely. He throws it right back in Ivan's face. Everything was lawful, and Ivan leaving was his consent. He silently sanctioned the murder. It's devastating for Ivan.
And Smerdyakov gives Ivan the stolen money, the 3,000 rubles.
Yes, the physical proof. Shows him the pink ribbon he tied it with, and then he hangs himself, leaving that cynical note saying he did it of his own will and desire, blaming no one. A final act of manipulation, perhaps.
So the truth is out, at least between Smerdyakov and Ivan. But the trial, the legal system doesn't see it that way. It becomes this huge spectacle.
A total spectacle. Society loves it. The courtroom is packed, especially with ladies who are somehow convinced Mitya, the romantic figure, will be acquitted. It shows how little facts sometimes matter compared to public sentiment.
And you have the lawyers ready for battle. The prosecutor, Kirillovich, known for his psychological insight.
Right, he wants to dissect Mitya's character. And the defense lawyer, Fetyukovich, who's clever, tenacious, ready to poke holes in everything.
Let's look at the key witnesses. Grigory first. Still unshakable about that open door.
Rock solid. Sticks to his story. Persists that he saw it. There's no shaking him. It remains the prosecution's strongest piece of evidence against Dmitri.
Then Rakitin testifies, trying to show off his inside knowledge.
Yeah, the opportunist. But Mitya blows him up, shouts that Rakitin doesn't believe in God, he took the bishop in, undermines his credibility completely.
And then Katerina Ivanovna, her testimony is just explosive.
Tremendous, the text calls it. She starts off seemingly modest, but with that resolute gleam in her eye. She admits giving Dmitri the money to test him, knowing he'd spend it on Grishenka, this act of proud self-sacrifice.
But then she snaps.
Completely. In this hysterical fit, she produces Ivan's letter, a love letter, and basically accuses Ivan of convincing her Dmitri was guilty. She tries to save Dmitri by throwing Ivan under the bus. It's this wild mix of love, pride, vengeance, total chaos.
Wow. What about Grushenka? How does she testify?
Fiercely loyal, defends Dmitri with pure emotion. He's not the man to tell a lie. She blames Katerina directly. The woman who came between us has ruined him. Brings all the personal drama right into the courtroom.
And Alyosha, what does he say?
He testifies with complete sincerity that he believes Dmitri is innocent. Not based on evidence, but on a higher feeling, a faith in Dmitri's fundamental goodness, despite everything. It's a moral testimony.
So the prosecution lays out its case. Kirillovich paints Dmitri as this out-of-control sensualist.
Yeah. Unruly, even represents Russia as she is in its chaotic state, he argues. He pushes for premeditation. The hatred, the threats, the need for money, the pestle as the weapon.
And he dismisses Smerdyakov.
Totally. Calls him a coward, an epileptic chicken, incapable of such a crime. Highlights his epileptic fit beforehand as proof he was too weak. Contrasts Dmitri's supposedly clumsy actions, like leaving the torn envelope, with how a cunning thief like Smerdyakov would have acted.
But the defense lawyer, Fetyukovich, pushes back hard.
Brilliantly. He questions the whole idea of filial love for a father like Fyodor. Such a father. Cannot be called a father and does not deserve to be. Challenges that core societal assumption.
He questions the evidence, too. The psychology cuts both ways.
Exactly. Points out the money found wasn't the full 3,000, and he strongly suggests Smerdyakov is the murderer, highlights his spiteful, envious nature, his intelligence, his shame about his birth.
And makes that plea for mercy. Better acquit 10 guilty men than punish one innocent man.
A classic legal appeal, but powerful in this context.
And then Ivan tries to testify again, tries to present the real truth, Smerdyakov's confession.
Yes, in this moment of lucidity amidst his fever, he comes back. He tries to confess Smerdyakov's guilt. He even has the 3,000 rubles as proof.
But they don't believe him.
No. He's incoherent, dramatically wild. Katerina's outburst earlier, Smerdyakov's suicide. It all combines to make them think he's just raving mad with fever. The actual truth is dismissed as delusion. It's tragic irony.
So after all that, the conflicting stories, the dismissed confession, the jury finds Dmitri
guilty. Despite everything, it's a devastating verdict. It shows how perception, prejudice, the most convenient story, can win out over the actual messy truth. Leaves you feeling a real sense of injustice.
So the trial ends, but the story continues. Dmitri's condemned, but what happens next? How do they all cope?
Yeah, the novel doesn't just stop there. It explores how they live with the consequences. Dmitri, strangely, finds a kind of peace in the verdict, even though it's unjust for the murder itself.
He accepts the suffering, wants to be purified by it.
Yes, I accept the torture of accusation. I want to suffer, and by suffering I shall be purified. He still insists I am not guilty of my father's blood, but he accepts the punishment as a way to find a new man inside himself. He still has this incredible thirst for existence, even facing Siberia.
And there's that plan to escape to America with Grushenka.
Right, a desperate romantic plan. But he sees it not as running away for pleasure, but as another exile, maybe just as hard as Siberia. It's about transforming his suffering through shared love and hardship with Grushenka, who's also changed so much.
What about Alyosha? He left the monastery, as Sosima advised.
Yeah.
What's his path now?
He's fully in the world now. He gets engaged to Lise Holikov, the young invalid girl.
Who has her own dark side, doesn't she? Wants to set fire to the house.
Yeah, she's got this complex, tormented martyr's mind. Alyosha sees her suffering, understands it. But he's still wrestling with his own faith, admits again, perhaps I don't even believe in God. Yet he continues to be that source of comfort, offering that tiny little onion of love and understanding to everyone. He still believes in Dmitri's potential for transformation.
And even. Still lost in his fever and guilt.
Pretty much. Still deep in that brain fever after the trial. Kadrina, surprisingly maybe, dedicates herself to nursing him, ignoring what people say. Is it love? Is it her form of virtue? Hard to say.
But there's a sense he's struggling towards something. That God might conquer him.
Yes, Dostoyevsky writes about the anguish of a proud determination, his earnest conscience. God, in whom he disbelieved, is battling for his soul, even though his pride resists. Alyosha holds out hope for him. It suggests a long, hard road, but maybe a path to recovery.
The novel also gives significant attention to the boys, Ilusha and Kolya. That feels important, looking towards the future.
Hugely important. Ilusha, the boy Dmitri humiliated, gets sicker and eventually dies. It's a really poignant reminder of that innocent suffering. But his friendship with Kolya Krasotkin is key.
Kolya, the clever, slightly arrogant young socialist.
That's him. But he becomes incredibly devoted to Ilusha, shows real loyalty, compassion, a sense of justice developing. He even brings Ilusha his dog, Peresvan, which gives the dying boy so much comfort.
And Alyosha's relationship with these boys seems central.
It is. It highlights the theme of moral education, the hope for the next generation. Maybe they can build a better, more compassionate world. It's fragile, but the hope is there. Small acts of kindness mattering.
And underlying all of this, Father Zosima's teachings still echo, don't they? Even after his death.
Absolutely. Even after the disappointment of the breath of corruption, the fact his body decayed normally wasn't miraculously preserved, which scandalized some.
Which is interesting, Dostoyevsky including that detail. Makes him more human.
Exactly. It grounds his spirituality. True holiness isn't magic. It's in the impact of his teachings, his love, his message about loving people even in their sin, about universal responsibility. We are all responsible to all for all. That resonates deeply. It's the antidote to the Karamazov chaos, the idea that God took seeds from different worlds and sowed them on this earth, that potential for good exists in everyone.
And there you have it. Wow. A deep, deep dive into the brothers Karamazov. Characters grappling with everything: love, faith, money, morality, suffering, redemption.
It's just such a rich, complex tapestry of human life, isn't it? Dostoyevsky leaves you thinking about our own internal struggles, the big questions. It's why it's still so powerful today.
Absolutely. It forces you to look at your own beliefs about justice, freedom, good, evil, all of it. It definitely leaves you with a lot to chew on.
For sure.
So as you think about the Karamazovs, here's something to mull over. If Ivan is right and everything is lawful without God, what actually holds our morality together? What stops us from falling into chaos?
And conversely, if Father Zosima is right that we are all responsible to all for all, how does that responsibility actually shape the choices we make every day, the suffering we cause, or maybe alleviate?
Heavy questions. Definitely something to ponder.
Indeed.
And there you have it. Thanks for spending a little bit of your day with us and this incredible story. If you enjoyed this deep dive, a simple like or subscribe helps the channel out more than, allowing us to keep bringing you more content like this.
Yeah.
Be good and take care.